All right, and hey traders, TG Watkins here. Let's make sure we're good to go. I think we're also good to go in the social medias, YouTube, X, Facebook, LinkedIn. Interesting place to be live, but there we go. All right, yes, looks like we're good to go in the Moxie room. Fantastic, love hearing that. And yeah, this market, I am starting to see some changes in the market, which are good and beneficial, but I still think we're going to have a little bit of turbulence out there. And for those of you in the box room, I'm going to be talking about some of our actual plays that we've been doing as far as the SPX options and the puts and stuff like that in the trade I just put on. I'll cover that in about 20 minutes when I get off with the social medias because you guys have the history of what we've been talking about versus anything else. Hey, Kelly, good to see you, man. Glad you made your way in here. Hopefully you got some of those discounts. Okay. And so for the rest of you out there on the social medias, as I said, yeah, we're running some discounts for the month of October. Apparently, Moxie Indicator is the indicator of the month. They tell me I get a free parking space, but I work virtually, so I don't know how that's going to work out. But we're having a good time out here. So make sure you check out simplertrading.com to find out more of those coupons if you guys are interested and see what we're doing. And as far as this market goes, it's kind of, I've been putting out a lot of videos throughout the last 2 weeks kind of talking about how there's been a little bit of trickery underneath this, because if you look at the surface, the SPX pulled back directly to the daily 50 and you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. But if you look at you can look at the futures or you can look at the after hours on the SPY, and you can see that we had some pretty big dips. And yes, we did go to the daily 50 again, but what you're missing is that dip right here was in the after hours. Oh, let me get my Camtasia. It was on the after hours of Friday, like 2 Fridays ago, when Trump came out and was talking tough to China and all that kind of stuff. And then we kind of recovered for the week and everything's kind of looking okay. We're got to figure out, is this a bear flag or is this actually a bull flag? And it was starting to look like it was a bear flag. So I started to put on some positions for that, basically thinking, okay, if this market's going to drop a little bit further, if it drops a little bit, it could drop a lot. It just needed to get going. And Thursday into Friday, we had yet again another big downside move. I think partially based on the banks and kind of the whole situation there, but also partially Trump was talking a little bit more, trying to play hardball with China. And then I think it was a combination of Trump kind of walking the China thing back, but then also people starting to dig into the bank situation and realizing that maybe this wasn't as bad as they originally thought. And that it was kind of limited to a couple stock or a couple of banks. There were 2 banks in particular that I heard had some really bad numbers, but it was partly because of fraud and a scam. And so we see that Thursday into Friday, we had this thing roll down even further, only to then bounce back in the overnight. So come Friday, the market was right back to where it was and then clawed its way back. And then again, Trump continued to walk back some of the comments over the weekend with China basically saying like, look, we're going to get this figured out. We're negotiating, blah, blah, blah. And then the markets jumped up even more on Monday. And yeah, since then, I've been trying to see, okay, are we going to get follow through directly from here? Or are we going to keep getting a little bit of sound or volatility? Mirza, can you help Biker Pilot? He's saying he's got no sound. Maybe refresh him or something. Okay, so that's kind of what we're seeing is we've had, I mean, really, you look at this, we've had some really pretty big dips underneath the surface for that. Yeah, China's economy is still in depressionary mode. Okay, so be it. I don't pay too much attention to that. I've been hearing a lot of things that they've been buying up a lot of gold. So maybe you guys have been seeing there's a chart that's going around that says it's like amount of gold that China owns, and there's just a vertical line in the last year or so. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know anything about this kind of stuff. But that's something's going on with that. Oh, speaking of gold, I think the news du jour today is that gold is finally dropping and dropping pretty hard. We actually nailed this. We shorted GDX twice and did quite well. I think what did I say? 27, yeah, 27% gain on one of them. The other one was break even. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, you can see here, just getting super duper frothy. And the old saying goes is when everybody knows about the trade, that's probably when it's going to end. And we started seeing that media reports and news outlets, and everybody's talking about gold and silver, and that's when you start getting nervous. Remember the Warren Buffett quote: "You want to be fearful when everybody else is being greedy." And basically, greedy means everybody else knows about this thing. And so, I even saw something. Gosh, there was some people were talking about on YouTube that even now young people were getting into gold, and everyone's talking about gold, and you got the pawn shops and the gold dealers and people working with gold because it's now $4,000 an ounce. And I was like, yeah, that seems like a nice round number. You guys remember Jesse Livermore, the century mark rule? So 4,000, nice big round number, seems pretty reasonable. So we had to kind of figure out exactly where this thing was. I think if you look at the overnight, or if you actually look at gold futures, that kind of helps, because look here, you can see that there is a perfect double top. Even though if you look at the regular trading hours, it made new highs yesterday. So that seemed a little bit misleading. But once again, if you look at the futures, or if you look at the overnight, it was actually a double top. So this is kind of tricky stuff, like what I was saying with the SPX and the SPY and the ES futures, and how they actually had price come down quite a bit, like a double bottom situation. Oh, I mean, okay, so reports of the biggest gold mine ever found in South Africa. Convenient to sit on that type of news. Oh, was that part? So biggest gold mine, does that news kind of squash the whole supply demand situation? Now there's a ton of supply. And is that what's helping to drop the price? So then we come over to GDX. This is the trade that we took. Once again, just this thing was so high. It was just so extended. And trying to short something is challenging, because a lot of times, everyone's fighting about where the top is. There's still a lot of interest in prices going up because it's in everybody's favor, right? And so trying to short something, when I put the short on, somebody in the room asked me like, "Hey, what's my stop loss?" And I said, "No stop loss on this, guys. We got to kind of handle this and see what's up." Now, maybe because our first short was right here. And I did that when Friday the market, crunched everything. And I thought, okay, maybe this is going to come down and go down further right here, right now. Okay. We didn't know how bad Friday was going to get. We didn't know how bad the next week was going to go. And so when I put on the short, I put in the message, I said, "Don't load up the boat. This could bounce." And you can see, yep, it bounced the next day because, well, everyone walked back the Trump comments and it wasn't that big of a deal. So it came up. I thought, okay, well, let's see where this thing goes. It is kind of up here. It's at a double top. Let's see. Well, then it continued to go higher in my face, straight up for 2 days. I'm like, oh man, that's uncomfortable. I think we're down 20 or 25% in just a couple of days. And once again, this is kind of where some experience comes in. Now, of course, I'm not always right, but experience on some of these things has told me, like, I wouldn't be buying this up here. Like, this thing has been on a tear for a few months. It's very, very vertical. It's outrunning all of its support. And even though it had this last little spurt, I wouldn't be buying it. So I'm going to stick with my short side. And you could see here it was just still very extended. I thought, well, let's see what goes on here. And then fortunately, the next day, you could see this thing just got ripped down. And I thought, there you go. That's the beginning of it. And once again, for those of you in the Moxie room who were trading this with me, and I was telling you guys, somebody was in the room saying, "Hey, I want to add to my short." I said, no. You don't add to your short here. Okay. We just had a huge down day. Unlikely that it's going to keep going the very next day. Okay. It's unlikely. It's like 2 straight days in a row like this. Probably not going to happen. I said, you got to wait for the bounce. And we got the bounce yesterday, right there. So we perfectly nailed the bounce. I added to my short position. I did it through a different way. We were going long GDXD, but there was too much slippage in that. And again, this is something that we talk about with the leverage ETFs, and I have classes and things. We talk about that. And so we actually used that slippage to our favor and to our benefit this time, because we shorted the GDXU. So the bull leveraged ETF, so the upside leverage ETF, there's more slippage when there's a big down move. And so it's like, if you short it, that's going to be more beneficial to you. And so that's why I changed gears and I said, let's short GDXU, and again, for the leverage. And I saw in the room, you guys did a whole bunch of different things. Some people are shorting GLL, gold itself. Some of you guys had longer term positions, so you're shorting the futures. Some of you couldn't short certain ETFs, and so you did go long GDXD. I saw a whole variety of you guys doing all sorts of different things in the room. So I really commend you all for taking your trading into your own hands and based on your own either limitations or your own skill set and your own knowledge and said, okay, I see the trade idea. What can I do to take advantage of the move that could happen? So yeah, great job, guys. I love seeing the creativity and how you all were able to pivot. Like yeah, some of you guys put puts on. Maybe if you wanted to sell calls, short the futures, like whatever. There were like 5 different ways I saw you guys taking advantage of this. But basically, right here, as price bounced up into the underside of a downtrending 15-minute 50, and then on the hourly chart, the MOX indicator was back below zero. You had the 8 below the 21, and we added to it right there. And we woke up this morning with gold and GDX gapping down. I let it run a little bit longer, and basically we cashed in 3/4 of the position. I don't know, what is it, an hour ago, for 20. Well, what is this? 27%. What did I say? 27% gain, which was awesome. So I had a pretty nice size on that. So that's made for a good morning there because I had my first piece, then I added to my second piece. And if you guys look at GDXD, all that work for basically break even. If you guys had added to GDXD yesterday, so right about here to here, you also got about that 27, 28, 29%. But from our original entry, we're break even because there was actually slippage. So there was slippage to the downside on the bearish ETF. That's why these things can be a little bit tricky. As for as great as they are, you still need to know a few things about them. And yeah, that's why I was like, ooh, this isn't doing well. We need to put on a second piece. So when I could figure that out, we put it on and boom, it worked. So yeah. Kurt, Dust is the other one. Yes. Now Dust is a 2x. And Nugget also, they've changed these things. Dust and Nugget used to be 3x, but now they're only a 2x. It's GDXD and GDXU that are the 3x, which is why I went with those as opposed to Dust or Nugget. I think they're also, one of them's an ETF, the other one's an ETN, little details like that, whatever. Okay. Oh, and then the other reason that gold came down is if you look at the dollar. And a few of us were talking about this in the room yesterday as well. I said, hey, I think that part of the reason why gold went up the other day was because the dollar was actually pulling back. And I said, okay, this is part of why my timing of trying to short gold was off by a little bit because the dollar was doing its own thing. But then basically 2 days ago, the dollar came into the daily 50 and I thought, I bet this is going to bounce. And sure enough, here we are. We've got the dollar bouncing up, and I think that is also helping to push gold down because remember, dollar and precious metals are inversely related, and so we see that. Okay, Tommy, let's see. Potential big bullish news for crypto. Fed Governor Waller among the Trump favorites to replace Jay Powell. Okay, I didn't know that. I haven't been keeping up on this. Touting they don't want to be fearful of crypto anymore. Still exploratory, but could be why Bitcoin is pumping this morning. Related article. 901 King, I have only a small remaining portion of GDX, of basically my short on GDX. Okay, we took profits on our GDX trade, so I have just a little bit left. That's the answer to that. Okay, so crypto now. Okay, that's some news. So let's look at IBIT. Oh yeah, nice big pump. Now, Tommy boy, I feel like you know what I'm going to say here. The market sets up for things and then the news comes out. What am I going to be pointing out here on that 15-minute time frame that I was talking about to you guys yesterday for both BMNR, Joby, SOLT, all these kind of things. I was like, we got to see, surf fishing, you're close. But I said, we got to look for the pullback. And I even put this in yesterday morning's post. I said, hey, we've got a big move up. Let's look for a pullback. And that's what we got here. You see, even on IBIT yesterday, we had a big pop up. I said, cool. I love seeing that first move, right? There you go. First move. And I said, we need to see the second move. And the second move is the pullback. And that's what we got. This morning, looks like crypto dropped into its 15-minute 50 and found support and up it goes. And Look here on the hourly chart. What do we have? We have the 8 starting to cross over the 21. We are starting to see progress of these things bottoming and actually starting to move up. And we're seeing this on the 15-minute and the hourly time frame as the mechanisms that are needed in order to go up are starting to actually happen. Yes, on GDXU it was 5% size, but we did 2 of them. So that's why it was a little bit bigger position, because we had 2 entries. Yeah, so there's IBIT and SOLT. I've been watching this one. I put out I didn't put out an alert, but I put out a comment or a post for you guys. I said, hey, if you guys, we did have a position on SOLT a couple weeks ago. We got out of it, and I said, in case you were interested again in getting back into it, I said SOLT is looking pretty good. And I just don't want to be overweighted on the cryptos. So, if you want to do one crypto name, great, you can load up a lot. Or if you want multiple crypto names, you can do a little bit on each. But yes, I put this out yesterday and I said SOLT looks like it is ready to start moving up. And I pointed this out, and it looks like it's having a great day today. So if any of you took advantage of that, you can see here, just look at that 15-minute time frame. Price down, Moxie indicator up, Moxie indicator up, and it's starting to hold that 15-minute 50. So looking really, really good out there. Okay, let's see. Trading all, yeah, good to see you guys. Sorry, I forgot to turn on the comments in the social media stuff. So let me look at this again. Okay, nice. You're using the Moxie signals on TradingView. Good. Glad to see that you picked up the indicator and doing well with it. And let's see, iPod. The same could be said for SPX as you said for gold. The world is long the markets. Slightly iPod. I think gold, number one, was becoming very, very obvious, and everyone was talking about it, and gold was extremely overbought. It was very, very far outside of any kind of support and had just gone vertical. The SPX has not quite done the same. The SPX at one point was overbought, but has pulled back around August and September. Then we had another move up, and now we just had a fresh pull the rug out, down move, 3% down day last Friday, to where SPX went down to the daily 50. I do not believe that the SPX is overbought, and I do not believe that the SPX is overcrowded right now. And everyone talking about bubble or AI bubble or something like that, I don't think that's happening either, because I'm actually seeing some pretty good rotation in the markets. I mean, I think we're done with SOLT here, but look at the Dow. Look at that rotation. Look, I mean, that's a huge, very big, strong day. So no, I don't think the same could be said for gold as to SPX is about the world is long the markets. I don't think so. Java, let's see, is there another bounce in gold coming looking at your charts? I would give it some time. I would really give it some time, because the last time that we saw gold really move up like this, yes, it pulled back and then there was a bounce and then it had to digest for a while. So I wouldn't be in any hurry to buy gold for a longer term bull move or an up move. I would give this plenty of time to just rest and chill for a little bit. Okay, so just give it some time. Trading only. Let's see. TTD had some issues in the past. That's why this thing is down so much. I'm a little hesitant to want to jump right into it. Now, I don't know what the news is. I don't know what the history is. I don't know why this thing got crunched so badly. Yes, there's a double bottom, and yes, these things can recover and start anew. But I think I would want to research this a little bit more to know why this thing came down and see if maybe those issues and concerns have been resolved. Yes, other than that, I do see that there is some divergence. So perhaps, but I'm kind of not inclined to go after a stock that basically got cut more than half. I mean, it went from 130-ish to 50. So yeah, I'm not really super inclined to jump back on that horse. I never traded in the first place, so I'm not very interested in doing that. Okay, so iPod, if we're looking at GLD, or look at the monthly after 2019 for gold. 2019. Yeah, I get it. But what I'm saying is, here was a move, here was a flag. Here was a move, here was a flag. And you see how we've just had another move? So iPod, this is what I'm saying. We've pulled back a little bit here. I'm not entirely sure that this thing is ready to just keep going straight up again. I would think that maybe it's going to come down further. We don't know. Maybe it's going to go sideways. But you kind of see the action. You get a run, you get a rest. You get a run, you get a rest. And right now has a run with a pullback starting. So I wouldn't be in too much of a hurry to get back onto the long side with gold. And if you're looking at 2019, outside of the 30 ATR, outside of the 30 ATR, and look at where we are now. We are in outer space as far as these ATRs and just where we are context wise. Of course, it can keep going higher. I'm just not so sure it wants to go higher right now. And that's why I'm saying I would give this thing some time. It might need a few weeks before it's really going to give you any kind of direction. Okay. I mean, you can just look, rest, rest, rest. And right now we're up here. So I just wouldn't be in too much of a hurry to jump back onto gold, especially since this thing just had a pretty big move to the downside. Okay. All right. So for those of you in the social medias, yeah, I see a lot of eyeballs out there. So that's good. Mostly YouTube. I guess that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to be wrapping up with you guys. Remember, indicator of the month. We got some specials. If you guys want to come into the Moxie room, it's simplertrading.com/MIM. Let's see, MIM, and that stands for Moxie Indicator Mastery or Moxie Indicator Method. It could be a bunch of different things, whatever you want it to be. But yeah, it's going to be, I guess, slash. So simplertrading.com/MIM. Come on over, check it out. Got that. Okay. Now for the Moxie traders, let me hang up with the social medias and I'll come back over here and we'll start talking about, our Moxie Mutual Fund and a couple other things.